Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast, hosted by Integrated AI Services. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode dives into how artificial intelligence is reshaping storytelling, branding, and digital marketing. Our guest is Trey Robinson, founder of Story Amplify, a creative agency that helps brands connect with their audiences through powerful narrative strategy and data-driven marketing. Trey and his team are exploring how AI can enhance human creativity, streamline content production, and personalize brand messaging at scale. Trey, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me your story. How did you get started doing what you're doing now?
Started in financial services in the late 90s. Was lucky enough to get invited into the day trading boom by a guy that I knew in college. And so set up some offices, played in the computer world there, and then ultimately ended up at a software company that flipped to a brokerage that then was bought by Schwab. So here I am, 26, and now I'm working at Charles Schwab. And so it was a wonderful start to my career. Um, From there, I spent time at Schwab, obviously USAA, did some consulting, and then in 2018, founded Story Amplify. And so we are a digital marketing shop that focuses almost exclusively on financial services, as you can imagine with my background.
Okay. So you started in 2018. That was right before the world changed a lot.
Yes.
How did COVID and everything affect what was really a pretty new company?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, a lot of people cut marketing spend, not knowing what was going to happen. And so what we did was we cut expenses, but we did it in a cool way. We took some of our employees and went into a client who was actually still growing in that period. And so we were able to kind of bifurcate the agency for a couple years. So we had a group that was outside of a client serving multiple clients, and then a group that was inside, actually hidden in a client. We took the expenses with us and actually stood up their marketing department with part of our agency. And so it made a nice strategy because we were able to lower expenses on the agency side when revenue went down, but then we still had a team to scale as things started to pick back up. So it was a wonderful having a client that allowed us to kind of hide the expenses, if you will, in their P&L for a little while.
That's a clever idea. How did you come up with that?
Honestly, it was just, we'll give credit to the man upstairs. The client was growing and they needed the help. And so even though the rest of the world was shutting down, they had enough momentum that they didn't slow down as we went into COVID. And so they just had a need. And so we were able to fill it when we were looking for a place to find work. And so the two just happened to align.
Gotcha. Well, that's serendipitous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for marketing and branding at Story Amplify, how has AI entered your workflow so far? And have you seen any immediate gains from using AI?
Oh, 100%. I actually think that written creative is probably one of the first places that AI is doing a good job. And so we started the agency in 2018, really at the intersection of PR and content and brand. And really, when I left Schwab, I wanted to figure out how you could create once and reuse across multiple platforms, across multiple channels, because I saw so much waste in the content world where we were doing things for PR, but it wasn't being leveraged in SEO, where we were doing things to tell a brand story, but it wasn't being leveraged in PR. And so we really started the agency kind of at the intersection of all the content. Well, if you fast forward today, that's one of the things that AI does really well. I mean, I don't think there's, very many people in the business world or any of our kids that are in the education world who don't start a project or an assignment at a GPT saying, "Hey, give me an outline or tell me about or help me think," right? And it immediately spits out some thought starter ideas. And so I think that in the content world, AI has been, that's kind of been the tip of the spear for AI.
So for those thought starter ideas, how often do you find that you get a response back that you're like, wow, I never would have thought of that? Does that happen?
Not really. And, a
Okay.
lot of the time, and where I think AI is really good is when you've got someone who knows the subject matter using the AI, right? And so a lot of times we get back um, outlines or a first draft of a blog, and then the next question is, how do you fix it? How do you update it, right? Where do you need to tune it? And so I feel like with our team, because we write and we've been writing pre-AI and we live in the AI world in financial services, we understand how to tune those items. And so
Mhm.
rarely do I feel like we are surprised because we stay in our content lane, we stay in our lane of subject matter expertise. I think if we were to step over and I were to try to write content in an area that I didn't know anything about, I think I'd be a lot more surprised. But I also worry that it might be not quite right. And so we try to stay in our lanes. And so because we stay in our lanes, when I say lanes, we stay in financial services and we've created content pre-AI, most of it is about refinement and challenging the AI to go deeper and be more thoughtful and less about us learning from it.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you're looking at new tools, um, what criteria do matters the most to you? Is it, integration? Is it return on investment? Is it that it's the shiny new thing and you just have to try it? Like what what do you use as criteria?
Honestly, what I use as criteria is our non-AI work. Is the content, the creative, the output that's coming out of the new tool, does it match what I feel like is a gold standard in the marketing world? And so I'll give you a good example. We create a lot of blog posts, and then we use those blog posts to promote the company. So then on top of those blog posts, we will set, LinkedIn posts with hashtags and
Mhm.
images, right? And summaries and link back to the blog post. And so the blog posts are easy to write with AI, although, we always, like I said, make sure humans reading them. And so now the question is, how are we making the social posts? Can we automate that step? And the answer is so far, we're having trouble with the images, not the content itself, but the images itself. We're playing with the Dolly or the latest Chat GPT, and the images just don't look like they're on brand compared to what we were pulling from a photo library, what we'd set as a client's brand
Mhm.
standards. And so today we're going through and we're actively testing and trying to come up with a good AI automation for creating a simple LinkedIn post, but we can't quite get the images to what we think is like our non-AI quality. And so we haven't used one live yet.
So do you have a photography division that goes out to clients and takes the images that you do like and that you do use?
For larger clients, we love custom photography. We actually think
Mhm.
it makes a brand stand out in a sea of sameness. I mean, really, really good photos, really custom photos, photos of the team, photos of their environment. That really helps a brand to stand out and look more sophisticated than it is. Many of our clients are localized financial advisors and they just don't have the budget for that. So in those cases, we come up with a set of photo standards that match the brand. So we'll start with, hey, you're a regional financial advisor in X area. Do you want all your images to be from your area so that they're very locally recognized? Or do we want all of our images to be of a certain lifestyle or a certain age demographic to represent your clients, right? And so once we have those conversations with the client, we set a set of photo standards that we say, for this client, we're going to use photos that fit into these categories. And then we manually pick those, usually out of, an Adobe library or a Shutterstock library, but we're very selective to make sure that they match the client's criteria. And so that
Mhm.
criteria is what we're then comparing the AI results to. And we're trying to prompt engineer those to be as close as possible because we do have a set of standards. But like I said, we're a little short today on that quality.
Interesting. Okay. Um, yeah, I've certainly struggled getting AI images and pictures to end up being what I want. And the one that I find most frustrating is you get it close. It's 95% of the way
Yes.
there, and you tell the LLM, take that exact picture and just change this one little thing, and then you get something that's completely different. You're like,
Yes.
what did you not understand about take that exact picture? That I find that very annoying.
No, exactly. We were playing around the office probably 2 weeks ago doing a charity project, not a paying client, but we had a charity client that was going to do a crawfish boil, Texas, spring, right?
Oh,
And they were going to have live music, right? And it was going to be Texas country live music. So we were trying to figure out, how do you take a crawfish and put him on a stage and put him in a cowboy hat and put him in a guitar, right? You wouldn't think that would be hard for the LLM to build. We got it almost to the end, except for the crawfish didn't have any antennas. So we were like, hey, make the antennas stick out of the cowboy hat. To your point, like we're there. We've got the 5-piece band. It's on the stage. The next image came back and they were alligators. We were like, look. We didn't ask you to change a crawfish to an alligator. I realize in the LLM's mind, they're like, well, it's just Cajun, so it's alligators, crawfish, right? But no. To your point, what should have been a simple prompt, a simple small change to make that image look that much more authentic. Because if you know crawfish, they've got antennas, right? It couldn't land the plane. And so that's a great, funny example of exactly what you're saying. You wouldn't have thought that with a hard prompt, but yeah, it went south really fast.
Yeah. Funny. So funny. And it's really funny that you and I have both had exactly the same experience.
Yeah.
That tells me that probably a lot of other people have also had that exact same experience.
That's right. One of our team members said the other day, man, this would be a perfect picture if that guy didn't have 6 fingers. It's like,
so as you've started using AI more and more in your agency over the last, probably 1 or 2 years, what internal changes have you made, with your team structure or skills or people you're now thinking about hiring, to take advantage of AI and to use it most effectively?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think that the jobs are changing a little bit, right? Some of the early lower level work is definitely getting consumed by AI. So, do we still need as many interns on the team? Do we need to still need as many entry-level people on the team? I think that's a question that a lot of us are asking. Fortunately, our interns last the semester and then they go back to school. We're butted right up next to a college in North Austin, so we get a lot of communication and marketing interns. It's great. Everybody wins. They get real experience and we get some of our low-level tasks. And so we're able to, if AI is doing the job, we can change the intern job or maybe have one less intern next year, but we're not having to lay somebody off because it's really important to us that we're treating our team members with respect. We're building a culture where people feel like they're growing. And so we want to make sure to not damage that culture by, thinking of them as just a piece of utility along the metric. However, as we grow in AI, we're finding that the integration between the tools is one of the pain points. And so one of the positions that we've thought about hiring that we've actually worked with some contractors are just almost AI integration people. And so you've got tools like Make and innate, right, to do a wonderful job of connecting the tools. And so I find that connection skill set is becoming more and more important if we want the AI to work end to end. And we want the automation to not be between the keyboard and the AI, but we want it to be cross systems. That the integration role, I feel like, is becoming more and more important. And so that might be one of our next full-time hires. We're definitely using contractors for that today, which is help us integrate the steps between the AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that those integrations can be absolute force multipliers for the amount of work that can get done to take the drudge work away from the creative person. So yeah, it's incredible what some of those tools can do if they're implemented by the right people.
Absolutely. And one of the things we're challenging are, we have a lot of entry-level marketers, people that have been on the job, in 5 years. And so we're challenging them to grow as marketers because now they don't have to, your point, do the grunt work. They don't have to do the entry work. Now they get to, they've moved from a creator maybe to a reviewer. Well, that means that they've got to have their marketing skill set really sharp so they can look at a piece of content and figure out how to improve it and figure out if it's good content and figure out if it's on brand. And so to your point, I feel like we're getting better work out of the team because we're able to take some of maybe the just grunt work off of their plate and let them focus on their craft.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you work in financial services and there's a couple of sort of protected, in my mind, gosh, what's the word? Industries, maybe it's not quite the right word, and I'll think of it in 5 minutes. But like healthcare and in finance and where are there any? I'm just curious. Are there any regulatory or trust issues with using AI for any of what you're doing, or is marketing just outside of those areas?
No. It's a great question. So we have a client that we're working on that is using AI to help advisors have better conversations with their clients, right? So how does it almost coach? How does it think about the right prompts? How does it help the advisor really understand the client's needs? And as they go to the larger financial services firms, the larger financial services firms, the Fortune 100, are very clear to say, can you turn that off? Even though it's not really hitting any client MPI, any private data, they still just aren't 100% comfortable with the AI. And so one of the questions that they get asked in the vendor process is, can we control that? Can we turn it off? Can we control the inputs? Like that's a serious set of questions that the Fortune 100 companies, 500 companies are asking of the smaller firms and how they're using AI. So that's one issue that we see with clients. The second issue is, if you're going to put out a piece of communication to more than, say, 25 or 50 clients, it becomes what they would call communication with the public, and it has to be reviewed by a licensed person to make sure it's not promissory, make sure it's not misleading. Those licenses are held by people, which means as much as you want to automate a piece of content or a piece of content creation, at some point we've got to have a human in the loop. Now, those reviews are getting shorter. They're getting easier because those humans are using AI to look for those topics, but we still need a human stamp on it. And we can do things like review in reverse or afterwards versus before, but we still got to have humans in the loop. And so we're never going to be fully automated until the regulatory moat that's around healthcare and financial services is okay with AI doing part of that workflow.
I've never heard of that. So you say they're licensed. Are they lawyers? Are they licensed marketing people? What is the actual license?
The 72463 securities licenses that are either issued by the SEC or by FINRA, depending on how they're licensed. And so, for example, in the broker-dealer world, it's a FINRA registration, and you have to have what they would call a securities principal approve the communication before it can go out. And that securities principal is a human being.
Gotcha. Interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, looking ahead, and for a while I was saying like 24 months, but I think things change so fast you can't look ahead 24 months. But looking ahead 12 months, what role do you expect AI to be filling at your agency? And what are you doing to prepare for that?
I mean, we talked about it a little bit. It's continuing to take the lower level, entry level kind of tasks off and automate those. And then connect the tasks together, so to create true workflows, true end-to-end workflows. And so I continue to think that level of work will get consumed by AI, right? So the integration between workflows and the first pass or first task in the work, I think that stuff will be gone, in 12 to 18 months. What we'll need, though, is the marketers, as we were talking about, to step up and be the second level and be the review, right? And then the question becomes, how long before, the AI is batting 99 out of 100 and we don't need that review? I think time will tell, but at some point that'll happen as well. And so I think the world of marketing is just going to continue to automate those lower level tasks, to automate certain workflows. And hopefully what happens in the marketing world is the marketers are challenged to grow and move upstream and continue to produce better and better work at higher and higher levels. But yeah, no, if you ask me what's going to happen in 12 to 18 months, my hope is that we've automated all those lower level tasks. And then what does that do? That probably allows us to go down market to serve a smaller, localized client better, because they can get more marketing, they can get more content, they can get more services at a lower price point. And so hopefully what that does is it helps to maybe democratize the local small business so that they can compete against the national brands. And wouldn't that be fun to see,
Yeah, absolutely. See, like you're thinking you could offer your services to smaller companies that maybe don't have the spend for marketing that you normally get, because it's faster and easier and more efficient to provide for them.
Absolutely. We have a whole practice that deals with the 2 to 5 man financial advisor shop. And so, you go to some small town and on the square is a financial advisor on the corner, and it might be Peter and Trey's financial advisors. And we service that local community, and we understand who they are, and we understand, maybe a lot of them work at the local factory. And so we know that business, we know that community. Well, at that size practice, typically they don't have a marketing person that works for them because, one, they've grown through word of mouth, but two, it's cost prohibitive. Well, in the future, they could have an active social media presence and a client newsletter and, some other things that maybe they weren't able to have that a more regional firm would have, because now it's cheap enough that they can pull it off because the automation allows it to be affordable for, like I said, a very small business.
Yeah. Well, that would be fantastic to bring professional services to more clients
Yeah.
who can't afford it now. So awesome. Well, tell you what, as we start to wrap things up, what do you want people who might hire you to know about you and to know about your agency?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we're financial services experts. And this is a weird industry that's got a lot of terminology to the point we were making earlier, has compliance rules and regulations. And so what I think you always want is a marketer that understands your business. And so for
Mhm.
your listeners, if you're in the financial services space, we have a fintech practice, we have an advisor practice, we have a Fortune 500 practice. Like, we're there to serve you. And so if you're not in the financial services place, you're a food and beverage company or an AI startup, we're probably not your agency. But because we want to stay in our lane, we want to stay what we know really well because we can add value there. And so to your listeners, if you're in the fintech space and you're looking for an agency that understands your world, we think we could be a fit.
That sounds fantastic. Well, Trey, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show today, and it's been a great conversation.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And, we'll probably see you somewhere else on the internet sometime,
Yeah,
but take care.
yeah. Thanks.